Payne, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Had a nice Christmas time, mid-December weekend, and I'm back here in Brooklyn. How are you, Leslie?
I am great, excited for another episode of Desperate for Attention, coming to you from snowy, rainy, cold Cleveland, Ohio, where I'm still hanging with the family for the holidays. So it's been a very eventful yet uneventful weekend, depending on your point of view. But excited to chat and catch up. It's been a few days. What trouble did you get into this weekend?
Me and Maddie went into Pennsylvania via Philly to go to her friend's annual Christmas gathering at her friend's house. That was fun. Then we stayed over at her other friend's house in Philly, and then we headed back yesterday after some nice breakfast back into rainy, dreary Brooklyn. Maddie asked me what Christmas movie I wanted to watch, and maybe be shocking to our listeners, shocking to you even. But I've never
Yeah,
seen Nightmare Before Christmas before, so I was like, you know what? Let's give Nightmare Before Christmas a shot.
I am shocked. Um, a little odd, but what did you think of it? Did it hold up to what all the hype has been about for oh so many years?
You can get a book published on 2000s emo without having seen the movie Nightmare Before Christmas.
That's crazy.
Let
They
it let
didn't
it be
do
let it
they
be
didn't do
known.
a yeah, they did not do a proper cred background check for
Yeah,
you.
someone at Day Street was not doing the proper screenings. Next thing
Nope.
they're gonna find out I didn't watch Corpse Bride and renege me
You've never
on
seen,
like.
yeah. No Donnie
But
Darko for you.
no, I've seen Donnie Darko. Uh, no, it's I think my big takeaways are bring back short movies. Uh,
Mm, yeah,
a movie that's over before it even outstays its welcome. What a
ugh,
concept. But it was nice. I'm not the biggest person on animation. I'm not the biggest person on watching kids movies as adults, especially
hmm,
kids movies I didn't have any kind of connection with as a child. I'm kind of a
sure.
tough sell on that, but it was charming. It was what I expected it to be. I'm glad I've seen it.
Yeah, it's sweet. I mean, I I liked it just fine. It didn't haunt me like a lot of other people my age into, going to the Hollywood Bowl to hear the orchestral renderings every year or anything like that. But I happen to be a bigger fan of Corpse Bride and Coraline, but it's sweet. I love the animation, claymation, whatever the specific type of um, puppetry that they do is just so incredible. And to think of how long it must have taken them to do all of that is really mind-blowing. But I'm really happy for you. Welcome to, like, I don't know, your youth at a hot topic. I feel like you can now appreciate things a little bit more when you see Jack Skellington and you hear people sing about Jack and Sally and stuff. Now you know what it means.
Wasn't Nightmare Before Christmas an influence on Cricket and Clover, the orchestral, whimsical Panic at the Disco Cabin album from 2007 that never got released?
Wow. I could not say that is a very deep cut for even my taste, but I was thinking more along the lines of the Blink 182 reference of Jack and Sally.
We'll wish
But
this
good.
never ends. We'll wish this never ends.
That's true. Well, I had a very similar weekend. Um, you were going to parties and going into the city and I went to three different home goods looking for various holiday accoutrements. And I'm always on the hunt for dog toys for Stanley Tucci. Walked away without any, but threw in a visit to Target. I'm just living my best suburban life right now. And I'm not mad at it. It's been lovely, especially because the weather's been pretty gross. So, taking taking shelter in a mall or TJ Maxx is kind of a dream for me these days. I have very simple dreams, very
Oh no,
easily attainable dreams.
I love me a suburban Target that's the size of an airline terminal. Just spending like
Yes.
2 hours in there, just being a consumer and filling up your giant red cart with all sorts of delights. I love suburban Target.
Can you think of another department store where you can use the escalator both as a person and as a shopping cart?
I didn't know they have those in the suburbs now. The first time I ever saw one of those in a Target was at the Barclays Center Target in Brooklyn when I first
Oh,
moved here in like 2012, and they installed that shit like and when they built this big shopping center around the Barclays
yeah.
Center when the Nets moved to Brooklyn, they built this brand new Target. I was just like, oh, the escalator that has a separate
Yeah.
ramp for your cart to go
Yeah.
down. I was like, this is the future. But
This
I'm glad to
technology.
hear it's made it out to Cleveland.
Well, Cleveland may have come first because I feel like that our Target opened before 2012. We're not behind in everything, but yes, it was completely mind-blowing seeing that for the first time, but yet not seeing it. I can't recall seeing it outside of a Target. So I don't know if they have an embargo on that technology, but it's very advanced, don't you think? Like it's a very like cool. I could also use that for a basket because I'm definitely one of those people who should have gotten a cart and instead put everything in the basket. And then it leaves like a really dark red indent on the inside of my arm because I'm carrying it. But it would be nice to have a little bit of a relief by putting that alongside my traveling cart, like a little basket caddy, if you will, to go along from floor to floor. But yeah, we've got really nice Targets in Cleveland, much better, if I do say so, than Los Angeles, because you just can't, you're right, a suburban Target, I would have said a suburban Bed Bath and Beyond, Home Goods, TJ Maxx, Marshalls, what have you. They're always just a more heavenly experience than a city one. They just
Oh
doesn't,
yeah.
like just find it so relaxing. And I got to listen to some NPC jams. So I was definitely a happy camper. And for anyone who might not know NPC music, I recommend they go back and listen to the third episode of this podcast, which is all about the ultimate NPC music playlist that you, Chris Payne, made for me, Leslie Simon. It is delightful.
I'm
You won't
glad it's
regret it.
the gift that keeps on giving.
It truly is. Um, so you partied this weekend. I partied this weekend. Uh, what else is going on in the world? What was your social feed looking like?
Um, well, I wasn't, I think I did a good job of not being glued to it. There was a bit of discourse on SNL and Gracie Abrams making her big SNL debut. Did you catch that?
I did. I did catch that, and um, I feel like these somewhat hyperbolic like makes her big debut. How long has she been around? 3 years? 5 years? I thought like when you make your when you come on the SNL stage to debut, I don't know, to me it usually is after a pretty long time of greasing the wheels of a tour bus or, really pounding the pavement with your guitar and a little hat, busking or something. And now I feel like some of the artists that they've had on there, this is just my humble opinion. I'm like, who is that? Not Gracie Abrams, but there was somebody a few weeks ago that I definitely was like, who is that? Um, so yeah, I was not surprised to see her as a musical guest. Um, did you watch the performances?
No. I haven't seen them yet. I'm well
Okay.
versed in her music in her most recent album, but I didn't get a
Yeah.
chance to watch the performances. No.
Okay. Well,
How did she sound?
um, I personally thought she sounded a little cracky in her voice, and I don't know if that was because she was nervous or perhaps she was maybe getting sick or coming off of getting sick, but her voice did not sound super duper strong on it. Also, that just might be her style. I know she's been playing a ton recently and like really gigantic rooms, right? Like, didn't she sell out 2 or 3 nights at Madison Square Garden or something? Um, so I don't know what her what the impression of her voice is. She sounded fine. She sounded fine with like an uptick vocal inflection. She sounded fine. She did not
That's
blow me
generally
away.
yeah, that's generally my take on Gracie Abrams. Perfectly
Yeah,
fine. She's
she's
fine.
perfectly fine. I she performed she performed That's So True and I Love You, I'm Sorry. Are those the right names? Um First song I think was That's So True. I was a little distracted by the people. She seemed to have a lot of people on stage with her for no real reason. And um, she looked nice in a very feminine tuxedo looking outfit. Her second her second appearance, she had this really distracting cape that was just over her right shoulder and it kept flopping onto her guitar. And I just wanted to push it out of her way. And I don't know if it was an intentional style choice of like, let's place this cape over here, but it was bothering the shit out of me. And again, the songs were fine. They didn't blow me away. It wasn't like maybe this is too easy of a comparison, but it wasn't like watching Chappell Roan and seeing a performance, right? Like a sensory, like visual, audio, spiritual performance. I mean, it was like going to a coffee house and listening to somebody who didn't make you want to leave the coffee house. That was sort of my take on it. Um, I try to imagine if I were more her age or younger, looking at her, and she appears to have a very charmed life. Uh, but the songs are fine. She sings about the same things that a lot of people sing about. I don't necessarily think she is singing about it in a way that I haven't heard before, lyrically or musically. I feel like there are a lot of singers that are peers that are doing it a little bit better, doing it a bit more uniquely, but she's packaged so beautifully to be as accessible as possible. And I was mentioning to you earlier, I was like, I was trying to figure out if I had to equate some of these singers to like different clothing brands that, Olivia Rodrigo would be a little, I think she would want to be Hot Topic, but that might even be a little too edgy for her.
That's a stretch.
Um,
You put
it's
it
a
well when you say
stretch.
you put it very well when you say she would want to be Hot
She
Topic.
wants to be Hot Topic, but she's not quite there as of yet. She's still, shopping the BP section of Nordstrom. Um, and I think that Gracie Abrams is a little, is very Brandy Melville. They only make us up to a size 6. And you know, the the craftsmanship isn't there. Um, and I just think that there might be, I feel like it's really soon for her to already be a Best New Artist nominee for Grammys when you see people that like spend years and years and years trying to prove their worth and really going through the paces and showing evolution in their identity as an artist. And then here comes this like beautiful young girl who may have a small gap in between her front teeth, but that's kind of the only uh blemish that I can find on her person. Um, Singing about things that everybody kind of goes through, but that's maybe the problem. Like everybody goes through that stuff. When you hear somebody like Billie Eilish sing about friendships and relationships, she does it in a way that you haven't heard before, whether it's the delivery or the lyrics or the music. And I just don't hear that from Gracie Abrams, but this is still sort of the start of her career. So who's to say where she goes from here? Um, I just, she's fine. She's fine. She's fine. She's fine. I don't know if I needed to see her on SNL. I think there were probably other people that would have been cool to book, but she's fine.
It makes me think like it makes perfect sense why Taylor Swift would handpick her as one of the artists to open the Eras tour. Like she's an artist who is good, is going to give a very competent opening performance. She's
Hmm.
also been clearly influenced by Taylor. So again, that boosts Taylor's brands, boosts her before she comes on stage. But also, it's extremely clear she is not going to upstage Taylor in any way, shape, or form. Certainly not on the Eras tour, and almost certainly not even in 10, 15 years. She's like
No,
this. She's like the safest little like B teamer for Taylor Swift.
yeah.
I
I
think
think
that's a
that Taylor could have picked I I think some of the other people that opened the tour were a little bit more interesting. You know, like she had when I saw the Eras tour in LA, Gail opened, and I thought she was great because
oh,
it
just
was
sorry, go
I
on.
know. No, I just
She
thought
has
it,
that awful song. Oh, the
you
count
know what?
the alphabet song. Oh, sorry.
It's
I'm sorry.
spelling. That song's not for you, Chris Payne, okay?
It shouldn't be
A
for
B C
anyone.
D E
It's
F
horrible.
U.
I
I disagree. I think it's fun. I love to spell. Um,
do
Sometimes I forget the order, so that's good
you
that she reminds me.
you should check out a song called "Us" by an artist Taylor Swift with Brendan Urie. There's some spelling on that song too. Maybe you'll like it,
Well,
Leslie.
I'm gonna school you because Us is actually the name of the song that Taylor does with Gracie. I think
All
you're
right.
thinking of Me,
Me, all right.
which
I
is
got my
the
pronouns. I
song.
got my pro. You know what I mean, though. You know what I mean.
Yes, I do know. Um, I like to spell, and if it's in a song, I love it. I'm there for it. Just like I said, sometimes I forget the order of the alphabet. It happens. Um, but I liked seeing her in that stage setup. Like I thought she did a really good job. She's super young. I think she's 19. What a thrill to play like SoFi Stadium uh at that age. And I don't know what she hasn't really like popped off after that song. So who knows what she's doing present tense. But yeah, I don't know. She's fine. Great. I keep just going back to Gracie Abrams being fine. And it also just it makes this year's great. I know we're not going to get too deep in it now, but the best new artist race this year for Grammys is really like a head scratcher because it could be where a lot of people cancel each other out because they're very similar. And there are a couple outliers in style and scope in the category. And I'm so eager to see who wins because I think it'll say a lot. Um, I think a lot of people expect Chappell Roan to win, but then you have someone like Gracie Abrams, you have someone like Sabrina Carpenter, and then you have someone like RAYE. And I feel like RAYE is the definite dark horse that no one talks about, but she is so beloved by critics. And you might not hear her on the radio in the same way, but I would not be surprised if she just undercut everybody. So this is the stuff that keeps me awake at night. Who's going to win Best New Artist? I don't know.
I mean, if you
I'm
look
gonna.
at the last few years, the Grammys have gone in a very specific direction, almost every one, and it's they've picked the artist who has a very strong chance of becoming a lasting big pop star. You know, they're not picking the
Mhm.
Esperanza Spaldings of the world anymore. They've
Right.
picked Victoria Monet, Olivia Rodrigo, Megan Thee Stallion, Billie Eilish, Dua Lipa. So of this year's field, there's Benson Boone, Sabrina
Hmm.
Carpenter, Doechii.
Hmm.
Um, oh man, I can't pronounce this one.
Karangbin.
Yeah, thank you. Leslie with the assist, Ray,
Yep.
Chappell Roan, Shaboozey, Teddy Swims. A good handful of those artists have had huge hits already and are shaping up
Yeah.
to have big pop careers.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's got to be Chappell Roan.
I think that it would be, it's like, okay, I watch Survivor. And every week you get to the tribal council, and before everybody goes to tribal council, they're like, it should be an easy vote. It's totally going to be an easy vote. I'm not worried. It's an easy vote this week. Every time you think it's an easy vote, boom, there's a blind side. No doubt about it. So I just feel like it's too easy to say that automatically it's going to be Chappell Roan, but it makes sense that it would be chaperone. But again, like I just feel like you can't throw everyone out as a contender. I feel like there are maybe two or three that are slightly more of a contender than not. Like I think Benson Boone is too new. I think Shaboozey's too new.
I
I
was gonna
think
say
Teddy.
Shaboozey would be the second most likely.
You think so?
Yeah, it'll be Chappell or Shaboozey. I can't
I
really
don't know.
I can't really picture any of the others.
I really feel like Ray is a huge contender.
I don't think that'll happen, but we can
You
put our
laugh.
we can put our
You
prop bet. Let's
wow.
put our bets down, Leslie. Let's put our bets down now.
Okay. I also want to say that I just looked up Shaboozey on Google, and the Google results just swayed a little bit from side to side. So whoever did that programming on the search page, I tip my hat to you. Um,
Well, it's better than the god awful incorrect AI generated information that fills up the top of all of my Google searches now. So, well done. Well done.
well done, Google. Um, okay. I feel like you know what this is probably a to be continued conversation, but I would love to place some penny bets on who's going to win. You know what I wish they showed you? Who came in second? Wouldn't you love to know in some of these categories who was the runner up?
Transparency in our institutions.
Never going to happen. I'm just so glad that women stepped it up by making good music enough to be nominated. You know, like I just really glad that everybody worked really hard to get a nomination, which is a really large side eye to the former president of the RIAA, who said the reason that women weren't nominated was because they didn't make good music.
And then they started making good music and everything got
Yeah, I
better.
know. Who knew? Like it only, yeah, exactly. Everyone really stepped it up a couple of years ago because that dude said something.
Shaboozey
Here's
was like, "Oh my God, all the women are making even better music. I have to go right. I have to."
so stupid. Let's take a little bit of a turn on the off ramp of books, something you and I both know a lot about. What have you been reading, Chris Payne?
I have been reading The Galley of Y2K by Colette Shade. Y2K subtitle How the 2000s Became Everything. It's out first week of January on Day Street Books. HarperCollins, a publisher that both you and I, Leslie, have had the pleasure of working with, but
It's true.
that says nothing to the reason of why I'm shouting it out. I'm shouting it out because it's a fantastic book that I think puts the 2000s in really, really compelling context of where we are now. And goes through things like tabloids and how people like Paris Hilton and Britney Spears were covered. It goes through the era of neoliberalism and how the whole the ends of history theory on 90s
Mm.
politics fucked us all over. It's and it really ties in Colette, the author, her experiences really well to all this. Um,
And is it a collection of essays?
yeah, it's an essay collection.
Nice.
It's really
Nice.
good. Sometimes with essay collections, I fear that it'll lean too much on the author maybe like overestimating their own experiences and or
Yeah.
overstuffing too many but she Colette really strikes the balance well here between like her own experiences growing up which fit what she's talking about really well and also you do leave this with a great sense of like oh wow I this these things that happened in 1994 were really important and shit, I forgot about that and fuck, it's really affecting how things are now.
Well, I definitely can't wait to read it. You've been singing its praises and it sounds really good. And I love I have a definite soft spot for like the heyday of gossip, tabloid, blogs from the early aughts, like your delisted and Pink is the New Blog and Perez, obviously. But before Perez was Perez and he was page 666. And
Oh, I
it
just
was
read that
just,
chapter. I
yeah,
just read it.
yeah. I mean, that stuff was crazy. Like it was, or like, what would Tyler Durden do? I mean, it was just a different time, and a simpler time. But I can't wait to read it. Yeah, it sounds like a really awesome collection. I just happened to finish a book called 10% Happier by Dan Harris, who is a very esteemed and renowned broadcast journalist for ABC and had a bit of an untraditional path to enlightenment and mindfulness. And it all kind of stems from his work as a war journalist and the expected but unexpected PTSD he suffered. And he ended up having a panic attack live on Good Morning America, but no one knew he was having a panic attack. So he sort of describes the experience with hindsight of what he knows now, what was happening. But at the time, it felt like he was dying on the air, and just how he discovered meditation and mindfulness and different gurus who kind of tout the importance of being present and how you can really improve your health by focusing on controlling your mind and the way you react to things, and um, an idea of reflection versus reactivity. And I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was really, really great. I had heard about it for years. I read the 10th anniversary edition of it, and you, I think, have, unbeknownst to you, been following his podcast, maybe not knowing about it, or his, not his podcast, his meditation app, right?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I've read some of this book or listened to some of it on audiobook.
Uh-huh.
Didn't even realize that when we first discussed when you first brought up the book with me. But yeah, it's one of those books that it kind of falls into the category of books you see at an airport that fall under the umbrella of self-help. But
Sure.
this is one of the books in that category that is legit, that you can learn actual real things from, that isn't just someone trying to like hawk you some bullshit in like a 10 steps help book that you see in Hudson News. Like what he's saying about mindfulness and meditation and being present and it's very real and I think the title is very accurate because he's not promising that this stuff is going to like totally change your life and upend it for the better. He's saying yeah, it'll help you like 10% if you do this stuff, 10% better, and I think that's very real.
Absolutely. And if anything in the book, he is kicking and screaming his way towards mindfulness because he has a gigantic skeptic energy that he can't shake. So anytime somebody has a realization or a mantra or any sort of spiritual epiphany, he tries to poke as many holes in it as possible. But there are definitely certain takeaways that he can't refute because he can't see the negative to these ideas. Um, and you're totally right. Like the book has a lot of suggestion in it without it being preachy or pushy. And it's all very manageable concepts. Like, I mean, meditation, I think they say to have any lasting impression on you, all you have to do is 3 minutes a day, which seems super doable. But of course, when you're living your life, you're like, oh, I don't have 3 minutes. I'm going to do it tomorrow. So it's really just getting back up after you maybe don't do what you think you're going to do or what you want to do. And I just thought it was really great. I loved it. I highlighted a bunch of stuff and I will definitely it's going to be something I go back and reread um in the years to come. I just know it. So he also was on a somewhat recent episode of one of my favorite podcasts called Infamous, and he was in conversation with host Vanessa Gregoriadis, and I guess they sort of grew up together in New York in the media scene, um, and had a really nice conversation about his reluctant nature to embrace mindfulness. And if people want to hear his story and hear him talk to another another person of his ilk, I highly recommend that episode. I found it really interesting. And I love that podcast. So there you go.
What else we got, Leslie?
What else do we have? Still have 2 more weeks left in December, which feels crazy. Like this has been the longest month ever.
Yeah, I'll be
Um,
I'll be going out to New Jersey ends of this week to spend about a week, maybe 10 days out with my parents in North Jersey. So we'll have boots on the ground for this whole lights, drones phenomenon that's been going on in
yeah,
New Jersey. So we'll have official reporting for Desperate Attention Podcast on what's going on the scene.
I'd also really like some official reporting on the home goods merchandise situation, just to know, like, have they also started stocking the shelves with Valentine's Day goods in your neck of the woods, or is that just in Cleveland? Because there's a lot to unpack there. But I would love to know. Yeah, we could do a side by side home goods appreciation post, what it's like in Jersey versus what it's like in Ohio.
I will be spending
Uh,
some time in the Menlo Park Mall, which is where I worked back in the era of when I was a scene kid doing the very important first person reporting, which would go on to inform my book and reading your books. So I can tell you what
hmm.
it's like in the what it's like in the Apple store where I would go with other scene kids in 2005 just to like walk up to the display computers and log on to MySpace to see if we had any new friend requests.
I love that. What was your job in the mall?
I worked at a kiosk in Menlo Park Mall. I worked at an embroidery kiosk.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Do you still have things that you embroidered?
My mom has one of the shirts I made her. I made her like a Christmas or birthday shirt one year.
Does it say like best mom on it or something?
It's something like that. It's like the dog. It's like our dog we had at the time is like on the shirt.
Do you still get a hookup there? Is it still
Captions.
there?
Captions is long gone. I'm sad to say.
Oh, ugh, so rude. I love a good mall. I had to take a return to Nordstrom and I definitely stopped by the Sbarro and got a large Diet Dr. Pepper, walked around. It was delightful. delightful. I love a good mall. I wish that more kids today would hang out at the mall because oh, the magic of like the first breath of independence. It's the best. The best.
Intoxicating.
Intoxicating. True. Um, I think that does it for us this week, Chris. Would you like to run through the list of all the places to do and think and say and follow and subscribe, or shall I?
I'll throw them out.
Do it.
So, this is the Desperate for Attention podcast. We post every week. Check us out, enjoy us. You can find me on basically every social media platform at C Payne on a Plane and our podcast, Desperate for Attention Podcast. Subscribe to that, Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, go get Desperate for Attention.
That's true. And if you would like to follow the podcast, you can go on all of the major platforms. We are oftentimes known as at Desperate for Attention Pod. You can find me on Instagram at Red Pattern Dress. I have been hiatusing from, is that a word? Hiatusing? I just made it up. Hiatusing from the artist formerly known as Twitter, but excited to see how some of the other platforms develop. The Blue Sky, I know that Chris, you are very excited about that platform.
I don't know if I would say very excited, but I'm intrigued. We could talk about that on a future episode. We can do
Let's do it.
a Blue Sky versus X expose and see where we're at.
Or it could be Blue Sky Pose. It really just depends on the positioning. Um, yeah, listen to past episodes if you've missed them, and be sure to tell all your friends. Share the podcast with those you love and like, or even tolerate. We're not picky. As always, it's been great chatting with you, Chris Payne, and we'll do it again soon.
Catch you next time, Leslie.
Bye.